G'day folks, how's it going? Today I wanted to impart a little bit of beginner drone wisdom. Recently a few friends have bought drones but they don't know where to get started. So I wanted to just give a few of my tips and experience from flying for about 10 years and how to stay safe, well, especially while you're starting out. So let's get started. So pretty much the first thing you want to look for when you're getting a drone, of course it's probably most likely going to be from DJI. You want to make sure you get the Fly More combo, because then you get not just the main battery, but 2 extra batteries which come with a nifty charger, something like this, a smart charger. Plus, it'll also come with a carry-all bag for you to haul it all around in. Drone technology has gotten so much better over the years. I used to have to travel around with a massive suitcase and a big heavy drone inside. But nowadays you can get drones that fit in your pocket. You have much better sensors, with this one having 360 degrees of sensors all around, below as well. Very good at detecting objects. But there are some things you still need to be very careful of, such as branches and power lines, like I have overhead here. So today I'll be showing you a few tips with the DJI Air 3. This isn't the most recent model, but it's very stable. It's good in high winds because of its bigger size. There are smaller sizes, such as the Mini series, which are great for traveling and very compact. They do a fantastic job, but they just don't hold up too well if there are strong wind gusts. So the first thing you want to do when you get your new drone, depending on the weight and the size of the drone and your location, is to register it. So on mine, as you can see, I have my like a number plate here on the side, like a car, because here in Japan we have to register all our drones pretty much, and that's a process of going online and using a DIPS app and registering through there, and within a few days you'll get notification back. You pay a little bit of money, I think it's about 2,000 yen or about $15, something like that, and they'll give you a registration number for your particular drone. The next thing is to learn the rules for your specific area. So knowing how high you can go, which is generally about 120 meters, 150 in some circumstances, and knowing where you can and can't fly. For example, of course, you can't fly near airports and military bases, but you also want to watch out for other things like maybe private property or sensitive areas. So an app that helps with that, which I recommend, is called Drone Maps. It's a free app you can download and check that your area is safe to fly. If not, it'll have like circles with green or red saying that there's something nearby, you can't fly here. But luckily, where I am, out here in the wilderness of Hokkaido, you're pretty much good to go anywhere within reason. Some other accessories that you might want to consider buying when you're starting out is a launch pad. So I have a couple of varieties. This is my fold-out one here. They're double-sided, and that allows me to take off easily in terrain that's not flat or it might be dirty. So like muddy areas, uneven grassy areas, things like that. So I always keep one of these in my car and one in my camera bag, just so that I have a backup. Some people do like to launch them and catch them from hand, but I like to keep my fingers away from the very fast spinning propellers, as I've had a few run-ins in the past and it doesn't feel good. So I always like to use a launch pad, or if I'm launching from a place like a road or a very flat area, then you don't need to worry about this. But it's always good to have anyway. And the other all-important thing to get is a memory card. So in the case of drones like this, it's a micro SD card. You don't want to skimp out and get a cheap little no-name brand one. Get one that's fast enough to handle 4K recording, and get a reputable brand, something from like SanDisk or Alexa, something like that. Always make sure it goes back in your drone after you finish copying your files after each flight. Otherwise you might get out in the field, like I have countless times, get ready to fly and realize you have nothing to save it on. Luckily, some of the more recent drones have some built-in storage as well, but it's always best to have your memory card on hand. Even before you get out and start flying, I recommend that you try the simulator apps. So a lot of these new controllers come with apps built in that allow you to simulate flying. So you can practice with your sticks indoors without the stress of crashing into anything. Once you've got comfortable with your sticks and taking photos, learning where all your buttons are and things like that, then you want to go outside, find a nice safe area to get started. Before we start flying, you're going to want to set up a few things inside your settings, depending on how exact you want to have your gimbal, how smooth you want it and everything like that. You don't need to worry about it too much at first because you can figure that all out later. But some things you are going to want to do are things like change the photo from JPEG to RAW maybe. In my instance, I want to shoot in RAW format, so I'm going to want to change that. Of course, you're going to want to format your memory card, and also I recommend that you start flying in beginner mode. Inside your menu, you should be able to find a beginner setting, which only allows you to fly out to about 30 meters, and it limits your speed and distance so that you can get used to just flying around in a safe, confined area before you start flying way out far and potentially getting lost or crashing your drone. Okay, so now a few other tips to keep in mind before you get in the air. Obviously, you want to check the weather conditions. Make sure it's not too windy. Today we have no wind at all, although it does look like it could be a bit of rain soon, but it looks like we're good to fly. With these slightly bigger drones, you're pretty much good to go. Even if there's a bit of wind, there's generally no problem at all. But with the smaller mini drones, that's something to keep in mind. So I don't recommend flying when there's strong gusts or heavier winds. Now I'm going to pick my spot that I'm going to launch from. So I want to make sure I'm not directly under any trees and not under any power lines. So here I have a power line running above my house, so I'm going to go over there a little bit so that I'm nice and far enough away from the power lines. Just in case I have to do an automatic return to home, the drone is not going to fly and try to land on top of the power lines, because that wouldn't be a good day. Okay, so I've got my drone on his little launch pad here now. I'm just going to open up his wings a little bit. You don't absolutely have to, but it's just less stress on the wings when you fire up the propellers. So I just get in the habit of opening the wings up so they're ready to go. I'm going to power on my controller first, and then I'm going to power on the drone by pressing once, press again, and hold in. Okay, I'll let the gimbal do its calibration, so I won't move it now once I've turned it on. And I'm going to wait to get a bit of a GPS signal. So at first, it may not be able to fly straight away while the drone is looking for some satellites to get GPS signal. In the meantime, I want to make sure everything looks good here with my settings. I'm looking good to go. And I have my sticks set up in controller mode 2, which means my left stick will lift the drone up and down, and my right stick will pitch the drone left and right. That's up to you, personal preference, but I always like to switch my controllers over to mode 2 when I get a new drone. I'm connected to 26 satellites now, and I've checked around, nothing around, no cars coming, no people or animals in the area, so I'm safe to launch. So now I'm going to pull the sticks in diagonally to the middle bottom and hold there for a minute. Okay, props are spinning. Now I'm ready to take off. Stand back, make sure all's clear. Okay, so there we are. We've got our drone in the air. I'm just hovering at about 1.5 meters right now and just checking for stability. Everything looks to be fine, and I'm just going to get used to my sticks. So I'm going to go left a little bit and a little bit right, making sure it's nice and stable. Now I can check, it goes up, fine, and down. And you always want to be gentle on the sticks. No sudden movements or anything like that, because they can move really fast, especially if you're in sport mode. So that's why I recommend starting out in beginner mode. It will limit your speed until you get used to things a little bit more. So next you'll just want to have a little general fly about, not going too high, not too far out, and not too low, and keeping clear of any obstacles and trees and things like that. Just a nice open area. and you want to do this a lot. You get muscle memory with controlling your sticks so that you don't have to think about if you want to go up, down, left or right, especially if you need to avoid obstacles quickly or anything like that. You don't want to fumble around and try to remember which button to press. Right now she's flying in behind me and I can hear some beeping on my controller telling me that the drone realizes there's a bit of danger in proximity here. So I can see that it sees me on the screen and it puts a little warning marker near me so that I don't crash into myself. In most modes, it should stop just fine before it comes into contact with anything, except for, like I mentioned before, power lines, small objects like sticks and twigs, branches. Those you still got to watch out for yourself. But once you get into sport mode eventually, all bets are off, the sensors are switched off, and then you can fly fast in between the trees and things. So now I'm just going to play around a little bit, experimenting by taking some photos with my shutter button over here, switching to video with the button on the left side. This is generally the same kind of layout on most controllers these days. You also want to get a controller that has a built-in screen. It's just a lot clearer, brighter when you're flying in sunlight, and a lot less hassle, quick to set up. You don't need to worry about connecting your phone and having messages pop up, running out of battery on your phone and things like that. I think this is the RC2. This is a fantastic controller, and I wouldn't go back to using one with my phone, that's for sure. So I'm always keeping an eye on my battery level. One thing that's very important is you don't want to be way out far and then realize you're almost out of battery and then you don't have enough juice to get back home. So as a general rule of thumb, you want to make sure you're coming back to your starting position when your battery has at least 30% of juice left. I've had some bad experiences in the past where I've been way out in the ocean. I've gotten down to about 15% battery and then I've tried to come back, but I had a headwind pointing into the drone. I thought I had enough juice to get back, but the drone had to fight against that wind. It didn't have enough power to push back and landed in the drink. Other times I've had difficulty landing in tight areas in the forest between trees when my battery is getting critically low, and that really gets your heart racing, that's for sure. When coming in for a landing, I like to keep the drone facing away from me so that controls are simple to understand. If you're in a bit of a panic or starting out, if you have the drone facing to you as you land, all your controls are switched, so left is right, right is left, and so forth. So in general, I like to keep the drone facing away from me when I'm coming into land, just so that I can quickly respond to any micro adjustments I need to make as I come down to land. And there we go, safe and sound, back on the ground, on target. So now that we've got the hang of flying around, going up, down, left, right, turning left and right, so forth, next you want to practice getting some smooth movements. So it's one thing to just start filming and moving and flying around, but your footage is probably going to be really jerky and boring movements, or just doesn't look good. So what you want to do is practice very smooth movements, rotating around a subject. As a general rule, you want to keep it simple. So just flying in, maybe just pitching the camera gimbal down to look at a subject, or pulling up away from it. But nothing too crazy, as later on it's just not going to look good. Another setting I forgot to mention earlier is your safety return to home feature. Here on the controllers, you can tap a button here and the drone will return to you automatically if you, for example, lose signal, or if your battery gets below a critically low point. It'll start coming back to you automatically, and then it will drop down and try to land exactly where it took off from. In your settings, you can change that to return to home or hover in place. So that's up to you. In general, I like to have it return back to me because I'm often flying out quite far over the forest. And as long as I have line of sight, connection is generally all good. But as soon as you dip behind a few trees, that connection will go down really fast. So if you find you do lose connection, don't panic. You can set the drone to raise up to a certain height. I have mine set to about 40 meters, I think it is. So it will automatically rise up, fly back at 40 meters, and then drop back down to its starting point. So now I'm just going to turn off the drone and the controller the same way we turned it on, by tapping twice, holding on the second tap. holding for a few seconds, the lights will go down. Press and hold. There we go. That's all powered off. Now I can fold it back up, put it back in the bag. Always make sure you put your gimbal cover on because you don't want to damage your gimbal, because that's very important, obviously, to keep your video all nice and stable. So there's just a few very basic tips to get you started with your new drone. There's a whole lot more to learn, of course, but those are a few basics which will hopefully stop you from crashing on your first flight. Some main pointers to remember: check the rules and regulations for your area, if you need a license or not. For me, I fly for work, so I must have a drone license here in Japan. Also, the other big tips are, I highly recommend a fly more combo so that you have extra batteries, because generally when you're out on location, you're going to want to fly from more than just one battery. So I always like to have 3 batteries, and that generally gets me through a job just fine. Also, make sure you've got a memory card and possibly a backup as well, and make sure it's fast enough to record 4K video. You may also like to look into ND filters if you're recording a lot of video, so that you can get that 180 shutter rule for those who are into videography. Or slow shutters, you can get really dark ND filters, and you can do surprisingly long shutter speeds, which are very steady. So in case you want to shoot something like a waterfall, you're going to maybe want ND filters for something like that. Again, just make sure you have a good line of sight. Don't go too deep into a forest or behind mountains, things like that, because you're going to lose your signal to your controller very quickly as soon as your line of sight gets obstructed. One other bonus tip is, if you get encountered by some angry birds, which does happen from time to time, they might come in and try to attack your drone. One tip I hear that works very well is fly directly straight up as quick as you can, because birds have a hard time flying directly upwards. So you fly up quickly and then try to escape away that way. I can hear eagles in the background here now, actually. They've tried to attack me a few times, but luckily I haven't had any crashes from them. Oh, there's one flying over there. And that's about it, basically. Just use your common sense. Don't be annoying people with them flying right over their property or up near their houses, or annoying animals, things like that. So common sense goes a long way. So stay safe, enjoy your flying, and make lots of beautiful aerial photography and videos. All right, now if you've got any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I know I just hit the surface, covered a few of the basics today, so there's a lot of questions I'm sure that you still may have. So don't hesitate to drop them in the comment section, and please drop a like if this helped you in any way. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.